to fly away so high, direction sky. A dream is to fly over the rainbow so high. A dream is to fly over the rainbow so high. My dream is to fly over the rainbow so high. I try to fly away so high, direction sky. I try to fly away so high, direction sky. Rise up, rise up, rise up. We'll beat again. Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up. For my mind and my brain. As I try to fly so high. Direction sky. The dream is to fly over the rainbow so high. The dream is to fly over the rainbow. The dream is to fly over the rainbow so high. My dream is to fly over the rainbow so high.
Good evening. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to Converse with a Coach. Welcome to all of you joining us from Kigali, Rwanda, from Africa, and from all over the world. It is my joy and pleasure to welcome you to this episode of Converse with a Coach. Today's topic is leaders in the hospitality speaking up about COVID-19 impact. And today, my guest is none than Rex Nijhof, who is the general manager at Marriott International and specifically Sheraton Lagos Hotel. Rex, welcome to today's episode.
Good evening, Mireille. Good evening, everyone on the call. And it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure, Rex. So before we start with today, if you are joining us for the very first time today, allow me to share a little bit about Converse with a Coach. So Converse with a Coach is a weekly show that I host on YouTube on Sundays, 4 p.m. GMT or Universal Time, or 6 p.m. Kigali time. If you are in North America, it is 12 Eastern Time. Now, the reason why we have put together this show is to give you an opportunity for you to converse with a coach. I am your host, Mireille Karera, and I am a coach. I am a CEO. I am a business leader, leadership coach, executive coach, and a dreamer, just like all of you on this call. Now, we put this program together because we recognize that on Sundays, it is the right time for most of you to get ready for the week. And in order for you to get ready for the week with your hopes high, with being ready for the next week, we think that it is important that you get a chance to converse with a coach. Usually, it will be myself, and sometimes I will invite guests who are also leadership coaches or coaches in various aspects of life. And sometimes we also have leaders in their specific sectors, just like today in hospitality. The main goal truly is to give you an opportunity to speak to a coach and to have conversations in a safe space where you can talk to someone about specific issues that are resonating with you if you are tuning in. So I would encourage you to subscribe to this channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and click that button and subscribe so that you can get to see weekly topics and also reminders when we have different topics. Last week, we had a fantastic speaker from New York who talked to us about Africans in the diaspora and those who are making difference, being Africans outside of the continent. So I think if you are joining for the first time, I welcome you to the show, and I trust that you will be inspired and you will find hope in this specific topic. If you are returning viewers, I thank you so much for coming back, and I thank you for the amazing feedback that I have been receiving and my team at Karera has been receiving about this show and how the topics that we have covered recently have been helping people. And to this date, when I look at when we started the show in August, we've covered, I believe this is the 7th show, topics such as how to overcome unresolved issues, or how to deal with divorce before, during, and after when there are relationship issues. We also covered areas of coaching African leaders, both young and expert leaders, and many other topics that we covered before. So I'm sure, and I hope that there will be something in there for you as you go back to our archive. On that note, I would like to also invite you to share if there is anything burning that you have on your mind that you wish a coach to cover online or direct online on a Sunday. So I'm inviting you also to share with us what you truly wish to tackle as an issue or a topic relevant to you or people that you know. Once again, we exist because we are the ray of hope during COVID. We know that not many people have access to coaches, so this is one of our ways for you to have access to it. So, for us to connect today, I'm inviting you to share your thoughts, your comments, your questions. I know that many of you who are in the hospitality, tourism, and travel industry have already indicated that you will be joining the call today. So if you have any questions that you would like my guests Rex and I to cover today, please, I'm inviting you to share comments, ask questions, and agree or disagree with whatever we are sharing today. So those are the rules. You will see me looking down, but I'll be truly seeking your feedback on the topic. Without further ado, now let me introduce to you the speaker for today and also the topic, which I briefly alluded to. So Rex Nijhof is a very seasoned hotelier, and Rex is general manager who recently relocated from Kigali, Rwanda, where he was the general manager at Kigali Marriott Hotel, and now he is joining us from Lagos, Nigeria, in West Africa. Now, Rex has several years of experience, global experience in hospitality industry. I decided to invite him today because, as you all know, the restrictions on COVID have taken a toll on many industries, and some of them are hospitality, travel, aviation, tourism, etc. So there are two reasons why, Rex, I'm not sure if I shared with you why I thought that you are the perfect person for this topic today. The first one is because I saw a video from the CEO of Marriott International, who sent a recording via Twitter back in March, when the restrictions were, becoming strong, especially in China. And what I loved about that video from the CEO of Marriott was his authenticity of a leader to talk about really difficult conversations that are affecting his organization, but at the same time, many people around the world. So the brand Marriott certainly, ticked off the box for me. The second reason is because, Rex, while you were in Rwanda, I certainly, myself and my team at Karera, we've had the pleasure to collaborate with you at numerous occasions where we hosted conferences, workshops, leadership events at the Marriott, and you've been one of the key leaders in the hospitality of Rwanda to not only turn around Marriott institution, but really with professionalism. I appreciated how you made sure that your clients are very welcome, both private clients and corporate clients like ours. So for me, I certainly value that. And the third one is a bonus. The third one, which I truly honor and appreciate about you, is when I reached out to you to ask if you would speak up, you were very gracious to accept our invitation, my invitation, with the heart of truly inspiring peers in your industry. So that for me spoke even more volumes about who you are as a leader. So I honor you and I thank you for the 1 hour you're given of your time to talk about and speak up about hospitality. So Rex.
Thank you so much, Mireille. These comments are so nice to hear. I really, really appreciate that. And thanks for the bonus, but the bonus is actually your bonus. We've been able to work together on Breakfast Club, Made in Africa Leadership Conference, and we've had numerous interaction while I was in wonderful Kigali. This is definitely something I could have never said no to if I wanted to, which I of course wouldn't want to, but I could have never said no to you, and it's a great pleasure to be on this show with you, and I hope that we're going to make it an exciting topic for all the people who are participating. But thank you.
Thank you also, indeed. And I guess you're also sharing with the audience how we met. So we met obviously at the Marriott Hotel. I usually ask my guests if they remember how we met. So can I ask you the same question as a quiz?
Well, I think it was in the run-up for the Breakfast Club event, and then later we kind of moved on to the larger conference, the Made in Africa Leadership Conference. But it was a great pleasure to be in Rwanda, and I think the Kigali Marriott has always been a place to meet. So you're really challenging me with this question and asking me if I remember. But yes, I met so many people, and everyone came to the Kigali Marriott Hotel. It was a place where I didn't have to go out to meet people because the people were coming to the hotel. But yeah, we've had a number of great interactions. Like I mentioned before, great partners, yeah. Very, very loyal. And I certainly remember, Mireille. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. You're absolutely right. There are so many people that one meets at a hotel, particularly running business meetings and conferences as well. So I'm going to ask those. I see that some people are already commenting, and I know that some of you joining us today, you will join me in certainly sharing some of the souvenirs that you have from Rex while he was in Rwanda. So now back to the topic, which is obviously, something that we wanted to discuss, and with the hope that it will give some insight to business owners of hotels or those managing multinational hotels such as Marriott, Sheraton, etc. A certain sense of direction of where things are at, or even a recap of where things are at. So back to the topic of today. I know that from a professional point of view, we will get into the impact, financial resources, etc. But for people who don't know you, who have not been at the Marriott in Kigali, can you tell us a little bit more about you, Rex, your background, how you started your journey in the hospitality industry?
It's a pleasure, Mireille. I started in the hospitality industry when I was in secondary school, somewhere in the 80s. Um, Subsequently, I moved into professional education, visited hotel school here in the Netherlands, and graduated with a bachelor degree at Florida International University in Miami. So these were like the first years. I had a lot of opportunities to gain practical experience, not only for the reason of gaining practical experience, but also because I wanted to finance my good student life. And I think there's no better place to do that than in the hospitality industry. But yeah, I did find the passion for the hospitality industry. After graduation, I started working with Marriott in 1991
Wow.
in Frankfurt in Germany.
Hmm.
And a number of years I stayed there. I moved to Munich with Marriott as well. Did a few other assignments outside of Marriott, short term, but a longer stint in the middle. I spent time with family company, and that was outside of the hotel business. Uh, I've worked with family business for about 6 years. It was very interesting, very challenging from time to time. It was in the engineering field, and I even spent about 2 years going evenings to school and learn a little bit more as an electrical engineer, which I then never pursued because my passion for the hospitality was simply too much. So I returned to the hotel business. I wanted to return to the hotel business with Marriott, which initially did not work out. I re-entered the hospitality business back in Germany again. Um, Coincidentally or not, I spent in the neighboring country about 12 years of my professional years. I started working in Berlin, and the Marriott and the Ritz-Carlton Berlin were about to open. And I passed by commuting from home to my work every day. And I had envisioned that I would want to join that team there. So in short, that happened. It's a bit of a longer story, but maybe another story for another day. So I returned to Marriott that was in 2003. We opened the Berlin Marriott and the Ritz-Carlton Berlin in 2004. And in 2006, after some interim assignments, I officially became a general manager with Marriott and moved to Stuttgart again in Germany. Having studied in the US and educated and worked in Europe, I always wanted to go a bit further away from home. So I got the opportunity to go to Asia. So from Stuttgart, I moved to Istanbul, but on the Asian side of Istanbul. So I really ended up working in Asia, had a very good time, both private and business-wise, at the Istanbul Marriott Hotel in Asia. And then one day a call came, and my boss at that time, he called me up and he said, "How about coming to Amsterdam?" So my first reaction was, no, absolutely not. I have absolutely no intentions to be back in my home country in the Netherlands. But obviously, it was an offer. I couldn't turn that down. The boss in those days was also a boss I had worked with before. And the Amsterdam Marriott Hotel is actually, it's a very special hotel. It's the first hotel outside of North America when the international expansion with Marriott began. So it's always been a very important hotel. It's been a hotel where Marriott always had a lot of focus on. So it was actually an honor to go there. And even though it was in my home country, the Netherlands, I did go from Istanbul to Amsterdam. Spent about 3 years there, and then had the opportunity to become a multi-property general manager in Mumbai, in India, looking after the Renaissance Hotel and Marriott Executive Apartments. There I spent well over 2 years before I was ready to discover the next continent. And that was in 2016. I came to Rwanda
Right.
to take over the Kigali Marriott Hotel, which had just opened. The official opening was in October. I arrived in November, December. And due to some conferences, they've had a soft opening a bit earlier already. So I had 3 fantastic years in Kigali, a little bit more than 3 years. Wonderful times at work and both private, personally as well. And I would like to say at this point, greetings to all the friends in Kigali and in Rwanda, and all the business partners we got to work with. It's truly been a fantastic journey to be there. Moving on, as always something new and ambitious to do more. I did get the opportunity to take over from my dear colleague here who was ready to retire, and I assumed my role in March as the cluster general manager for Nigeria for Marriott. So I'm looking after the Sheraton Lagos as the resident general manager, but I also look after the Sheraton Abuja Hotel, and we are about to open more hotels here. And one of the hotels which I'm also looking after in the pre-opening phase is the 4 Points by Sheraton in Ikot-Ekpene in the state of Akwa Ibom. And another hotel will be opened in Lagos, probably both hotels early next year, and that's the Lagos Marriott Hotel Ikeja. So that is what my current role officially is. As I mentioned, moving here in March this year. So what a timing.
Yes, so we get to that in a moment. So I just wanted you to share about you, the person, before we get into, the performance. So since this is a coaching conversation with the leader, and I know that those who are following us, at our different levels of leadership, so allow me to wear my coach hat and really unpack what I believe is a good message that you shared. So you are from the Netherlands, but you made a conscious choice as an individual to really start your career as a student and come back in hospitality in Germany, Frankfurt and Berlin. But really what resonates with me as a coach is that you followed your passion. So what you started for is not really what you ended up doing, because your passion was greater than, the acumen or the certificates or degree from university. So many people will go through that, but unfortunately continue with the degree or the university accreditation without following their hearts. So that's one of the key things that stood out with your life story, because as we can see, your passion took you different places. They took you to, different continents. So I also like what you said about having an opportunity to live in your own home country in the Netherlands, but you preferred living abroad. So that's also an amazing thing as a coach that I pick up. So truly you are in tune with your inner passion and what drives you. So I just wanted to comment on that, because when it comes to making choices or making an impact, there is 2 things: the person, so person who you are, and the performance, what you do. Person, performance. The per is the same, but the key thing is, the decision, the choices you make. So just wanted to, throw that in for people to learn, since, we're having a coaching conversation. So back to your story. You've relocated from Kigali towards March. Clearly, we all know what happened in March. Many countries around the world decided to lock down and close hotels, close, aviation, I guess, was almost not performing at all. So tell us a little bit personally about, where you were and what happened to you.
Okay, just my last working day was mid-March in Kigali. The plan was for me to fly to Nigeria to meet with my predecessor who retired from his job to spend a week and a half with him, and to see the hotels, Abuja, Ikotekpene, and Lagos. And then I would fly home. At the same time, when I flew out of Kigali, my wife flew out of Kigali. We have a little home base in Germany, so she flew to Germany. We have at the moment, 17-year-old daughter who's studying or who's going to school there. So she was supposed to visit her. I would follow her 2 weeks later. We'd spend some time together, and my wife and I were supposed to go to Lagos. While in Europe, we just had to get our visa done, and then Lagos would be the next step. And of course, that took a different turn.
What's that turn?
So we did fly out. My wife flew to Germany, and I flew to Nigeria. And my wife stayed in Germany, and she's still there. And I stayed in Lagos. So I did get that first week of travel, arriving here on the 14th or 15th of March. And 1 week later, the world started to lock down, and flights were canceled, and the business broke down. So I overstayed my visa here. I had an initial visa just to visit, which was all legal to overstay because I couldn't get out. And I ended up staying 2.5 months until I had the opportunity at the end of May to take a flight out to Amsterdam, an evacuation flight organized by the Dutch government. Since I'm a Dutch citizen, it stopped over in Ghana, it stopped over in Guinea, and then it's a long journey. And
sounds like a long flight.
Going home. But we didn't know then, of course, how this whole situation would develop. And in those days, I was kind of confident that within 3-4 weeks, I would get my visa, fly back to Lagos, and resume my job at the location where I wanted the job to be, where it's meant to be. But that, of course, did not happen. So due to the lockdown, international flights, they all closed down. They either sent their people home or they stayed home in the countries they're at, but at least the consular services were not continued. Right. So even if there were some flights, repatriation flights, back and forth, usually these flights were one way. There was absolutely no way for me to get on one of the flights because the consular services were not continuing.
Right.
Until early in July in Nigeria, the flights, at least domestically, started. And then September 5th, very recently, the international flights started resuming again. So I was one of the first ones knocking on the embassy's door in The Hague, in the Netherlands, and begging for an appointment to finally get my visa done, which in the end worked out. And a week ago, I arrived here back in Lagos. So I'm sitting in my hotel room at the moment because I'm at the hotel where I have my office and I will have my apartment. But I'm at the hotel room. I've spent here the last 7 days. I did my PCR test, or for the ones who don't know, I did my COVID-19 test yesterday. And I'm waiting for the results to become a free person again. I hope tomorrow when work hours start and the laboratories release the results, the negative results in this case. No, you want to have a negative COVID-19 test or a PCR test. And that means that I hope that really from tomorrow or Tuesday, I can at least resume my work in a way that I can get to know my team for many, or to work with my team, which I've been doing remotely for the past, what is it now? June, July, August, September, almost 4 months.
Right.
So it's been quite a journey. These are unprecedented times, but I also had a start in a new job I've never had before, and I surely hope that none of us will ever have again.
Yeah, wow. So the impact you are describing is an impact that is first personal, because we'll be talking about the professional impact in the hospitality. So what I hear COVID had an impact on is first on you as a person who was supposed to be running a hotel in Nigeria, but obviously because of all of the circumstances, you were not able to do that from the locations where you're relocated. So it's personal impact. Now, I'm sure that many people, many leaders of international background may have had some kind of similar situation when it comes to repatriation. I know that certainly from my family living outside of Rwanda and friends living outside of Rwanda, there has been a lot of repatriation going on. So I guess going back to the countries where they operate must have been an issue as well. So thank you for really being transparent and sharing your personal story and the personal impact. So now I've promised the viewers that we will talk about the business impact in the hospitality industry, because most of them are just like you, hoteliers. They run hotels, they run restaurants, or travel agencies, etc. So just like you basically rely a lot on the aviation industry. You rely on tourism, etc. for the hotel stays. Now, picking up on what the CEO of Marriott, globally said in his message in March, I remember he said that back in March, it was literally before the whole world shut down. He was referring mainly to the impact of COVID in China, where Marriott, an institution that has been around for more than 90 something years, had closed. 93 years, my goodness. So more than 93 years in existence. I remember he said that in his video that it had overcome the Great Depression. It had overcome the World War II, 9/11 in America. So now the next global crisis is obviously COVID. So with what he said, I liked how his leadership was to talk about, yes, the loss in closure of 90% of business in China, but now looking at it end of September, could you give us a sense of what is the hospitality industry performance looking like, not just from Marriott perspective, but really globally as a professional in that industry? What can we glean from your knowledge there?
Yeah, of course, Mireille. I think, first of all, I think it is important to highlight that whatever business challenges we have, and some of the personal challenges, you referred to the personal story. Fortunately, I can say I've always been able to do everything in good health and stayed in good health. And thoughts and well wishes to all the ones who have been personally affected by the virus. And the consequences of the virus or otherwise affected. How has the business been impacted? I think already at that time when this message came out, we did see that in a part of the world, the impact was tremendous. And gradually that impact was the same pretty much all over the world. We did, of course, we are so much depending on transport. It all starts, like I mentioned earlier, it all starts with a consular office, where you need to be able to get, for so many countries, get your visa. Looking at Europe, as a European, which I've of course closely followed, we had fences set up between Austria and Switzerland to stop people from commuting, which between Schengen countries is something, of course, totally unexpected. Never expected that something like that would happen again. So it has had a dramatic impact on the world, wherever we look. Business wise, the hotels have and I'm sure not only with our company, but the business has really
Yeah.
collapsed. 90% of the business in overnight or maybe a little bit longer has just disappeared because there were no transport opportunities anymore. People didn't want to travel anymore. People were not able to travel anymore.
Yeah.
But the good thing is that, and already then in March, we saw a little bit of a recovery in China. And gradually we've seen at least a recovery of the business throughout. Many of the hotels have been closed, either temporarily been closed or have been not taking new business. Like for us in Lagos, we've just not taken new business. We did not want to take the risk of bringing people in. So we've basically gone into self-quarantine. But we did have quite a few guests in the hotel at the time. Not necessarily as many as we usually have, but too many to just shut the doors and tell people to find other accommodation. So we have continued our small little business in those days, just to make sure that the guests we had, the loyal guests we had in-house, that we could continue to cater to them. I think what the good thing is that today we're looking at about 90% of all the hotels are back open again. Many of the hotels who have been closed have been reopened again, but occupancy levels are in many places quite low. But there is, I think the positive thing is that there is a recovery.
Yeah.
There is a way of traveling already referred to today. If you want to travel, you have to do before your flight, you have to do a test. You have to do on arrival, you do your quarantine, or you do your test, or you do a test, and after a negative outcome of your COVID test, you're free to move around to a certain extent again. So there is a bit of the recovery process, which has meanwhile, I think, reached most areas of the world.
Yeah, and I can attest to that in Rwanda. In fact, in Rwanda, I can see that, in fact, some of the hotels are seeing a little bit of, uptick with health stays. I'm not sure if it is going to be the same in Nigeria, but some of the hotels in Rwanda have been utilized as a premises for, when tourists or internationals and even locals arrive, for the first quarantine, there certainly are given specific locations for them to stay. And in that case, it will be in hotels. So I truly hope that it kind of gives a little bit of a business back to a number of, hospitality institutions. So let's just talk a little bit, I guess, from a point of view of, being a leader of a hospitality institution. So I know that, global restrictions have led many, many people to be let go of because there hasn't been any revenue. So clearly, if there's no business, you decrease your expenses as an owner of any business. And I know for sure that there are many people that that have either been suspended from work or, let go of. I can give you an example, not just in hospitality, but aviation. My sister works for Air France in Paris and has been working there for over 21 years or so. And I know that with the aviation industry, with Air France and probably other airlines, they were given suspension on salaries, etc. So you being a leader in the hospitality, let's just come back to, me being a leadership coach. What was happening? What was going on inside of you when, you had to deal with those immediate challenges over and above your personal issues of not being present, but having to make difficult decisions for people, for family members during that time? Can you help us, getting to Rex back in March up until now?
Yeah, that's of course in a situation like we are in. There's absolutely no way around it, and you rightfully mentioned it. It affects the industry, the entire travel industry, and we don't know how the recovery process is. Although there is a slight recovery, like I mentioned, we see international flights resuming, but we don't really see the people coming yet. When I traveled myself recently, I saw still more repatriation passengers on the flight than business people on the flight, if there were business people at all. Let's not even talk about tourists. I think no one is traveling on such routes as a tourist at the moment. We need to very critically look at how we can make and keep the business sustainable, as we don't know how the outlook is, as we don't know when that much needed and anticipated vaccine is coming. We don't know how the business will continue. So we have been and we are still looking at all the measurements which are unavoidable, the measurements we have to take to get through these difficult times, business-wise as well.
How about you? How do you feel as a leader when you have to, give those difficult, news to people?
That's always one of the parts you would rather eliminate out of your job description.
I know, being a CEO of a few organizations, I know that. But, you and I are having this conversation to help other leaders who are in that industry to really heal from those discussions or conversations that they've had to have. And some of them will be people they have, worked with for a long time, they've known very well. But just give us insight as to how you cope with these kind of discussions.
Well, we have to work with this. I'm not sure how well we cope with this, but it's something which we can't get out of our way. You mentioned rightfully that even I had to even deal with this remotely. So I had to work closely with my team on site, so to say, and the same for the other locations, into guiding and supporting and helping people on how to manage a situation like this. And I think that both from the sender of the message as the receiver, it is very difficult to deal with this. So it takes time to talk, and where we have the opportunity, we try to do that as much as we can personally. So obviously the respective leaders have had to have some conversations, and I've had conversation with respective leaders, guiding them in turn as well.
Thank you.
It like I mentioned, it's unavoidable.
It is unavoidable. Those are the joys of leadership, right? So let me now turn to our audience and, just ask them to share, how they coped with some of those, difficult conversations with their staff that are part of their leadership. So I see Gloria joined. Hi, Gloria. If you have any questions, Gloria, or anything that Rex can share, or you can share with the audience, feel free to message us. And I'm inviting everyone as well to share their experience on how they dealt with that situation. So now back to our conversation. So what do you see as the future of the hospitality industry, whether it's short term or mid term? Where do you think we are going with the hospitality?
The hospitality will certainly have, or the tourism industry will certainly change. I think people have discovered that there are places closer to home, if you talk about tourism, where you can go and spend time. I mentioned I have a home base in Germany, and it happens to be in an area which is a tourist attraction. There's a lot of leisure activities. There's a lot to do. There's a lake. So we've seen that place being overrun. And we had friends who wanted to visit us, and they could not get accommodation because everything was overbooked. So those kind of locations have been able to recover. Of course, they've had difficult times initially. Once they were allowed to continue, they saw the business resuming. So I think that we will see more local travel, which is maybe also good that people start appreciating more what's around the corner. I've lived and worked and studied on 4 continents. And coming from a small country like the Netherlands, I cannot even say that I know the Netherlands well. So I would definitely. Sorry?
It's such a small country. I think I've crossed it all. When I used to live in Germany, like you, I've gone to Norway, Amsterdam, Maastricht in less than a few days.
So I think in the 3 years I've gotten to know Rwanda better than I know my home country. But what I want to say is that now you need to just adjust your travel and enjoy what's near and enjoy what's possible. And it can be beautiful, and many times it is. So that's more from the personal, the tourist side. Business travel, it will be reevaluated. We've had other crises. You've mentioned a few in the past where we thought it will take time for business to resume, and business tourism or international travel has come back stronger than it was before. I think there's multiple reasons. Even if we were to reduce offices and have more people working from home, that might even give an increased need for people to get together again. If you don't get to work every day with your colleagues in an office, then at least once in a while you want to meet with your team and with your colleagues. And that would be a good opportunity to go to a hotel and to do that there. I think that travel is just also unavoidable. I have gone through 4 months almost of working remotely, and I was dying to get back and work face to face with the team, to discuss things on a different platform than having to pick up the phone every time you want to meet. So I think that we just don't get around it. We want to get back to that normal. I don't like saying that this is the new normal. This is new, but it will never be the normal. I hope that the old normal, maybe with a little adjustment, will stay the normal.
Yes.
So I think that in time we will see the business resuming. And what we've seen also over the years, new markets have come up.
That's true.
We've spoken about new trade for BRICS countries. The BRICS countries, not economically only, but also for travel. We've seen leisure travel, business travel coming out of the countries. New markets have been opened up. We've seen the Indian markets, the Chinese markets, massive numbers of people traveling to Europe and the rest of the world. So I think that there are still markets available where people are just ready when they have the opportunity to go and discover their continent and other continents. So I do see that in a positive way. I just at the moment would not be able to say how long will it take.
Indeed.
The crystal ball is missing.
The crystal ball. So what I hear, and I certainly concur with that, so domestic travel has increased in the last couple of weeks, and I can see that even where I am now in Rwanda, there's certainly increased demand in domestic travel because borders have been closed. So I see that hospitality institutions are really becoming flexible and also aspiring for local tourists to be there. And that's one of the things I must say, that two countries stand out for me, have done well in this world. Number one, in Africa, I think South Africa has really got that strategy right in empowering the local tourism within South Africa. And the other country is America. I mean, America, with the number of the population, the domestic tourism from East Coast to West Coast, Northeast, is, I believe, what has sustained American travel and tourism very well. So well that minority of Americans travel outside of the continent or even own a passport, as I hear.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. I like that strategy, really, that people need to embrace on the personal tourism side of things. And I agree with diversification or a blend of business hospitality. So I liked one thing that stood out is, meeting in hotels versus offices. And I can see a few people that have asked questions. Hi, Emile. Emile is also a general manager at a hotel in Rwanda. So, Emile, I know you are a professional in hotels. Feel free to comment or ask questions, and we'll be picking it up. Gloria is asking a question. So, the number of clients to hotels have reduced all these past months. What approach towards that are you coming up to reassure your services to them? Oh, that's a powerful question.
Thank you for that question, Gloria. This is, I think this is the most important part of what we do today, is to reassure anyone who wants to go back to what I mentioned. People want to travel, but can I travel safely? We have reviewed our cleaning protocols, and we have enhanced our cleaning protocols, which have always been on a high level already. And we've come up with so many new measurements that travel is as safe as it can be. The way we clean public areas, the way we clean the areas you would go to in a hotel, the rooms cleaning, intense room cleaning, the way we deal with hygiene and cleanliness in the restaurants, maintaining the social distancing, when people enter the premises, verifying if people are in good health, contact tracing. There are so many things we are doing to make sure that people stay safe, and I think you can be reassured that you can travel today if you need to travel, because we are taking all the necessary precautions we can take.
Yeah. And a follow-on question to that, as a supplier to, the hospitality, the question here is, what advice would you give in order to meet the required standards, based on the safety measures that you've just mentioned? Is there any advice to those supplying to hotels, etc.? Rex?
Well, the advice is basically the same as what I've mentioned. There should be a very, very consistent focus on cleanliness and hygiene, disinfection, making sure that you provide space for social distancing. If you work in a restaurant, if you cater to your guest in a restaurant, you have to make sure that if you at all do a buffet, that it's better to have a buffet attended by one of the staff members who can serve from that plate, or you exchange. Every time a guest uses something, you exchange the tools and utensils, so the next guest can have the next set of tools. But most important is you need to be able to enable your guest, when they come to your restaurant, that they can wash their hands, observe the personal hygiene protocol. Either wash their hands or sanitize their hands, provide a sanitation dispenser. These are the measurements we have, of course, taken, and I would recommend to, of course, everyone to do the same.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's not just the recommendations. I think it is required by the government, because I have seen, some of the restaurants, bars, not inside hotels, but outside of hotels closing because they were not following those regulations by the Ministry of Health. So we've got 7 minutes, but let's just switch gears a little bit and now, address those who own, hotels, restaurants, etc. So is there any advice you can give or, share your views on, people who have hotels that may not be at the size of, the typical Marriott standards, but it could be 1-star or a hostel or a lodge that is not as big, but really they are entrepreneurs that have put all of their lives and passions in building that baby, that dream of theirs, but COVID clearly impacted them. What would you say to someone who's really got his or her life in a hospitality institution as to, to motivate them? What could you say to inspire them, Rex?
I think opportunities is the word, what we have spoken about earlier. You have to overcome difficult times by looking for opportunities. In good times, you look for opportunities to make things better, but in difficult times, you look for opportunities to make things good or at least manageable, bearable. You need to look for opportunities. And I think that's what many people in the hospitality industry have done. Some countries, some locations, governments have closed or asked restaurant owners to close their restaurants. But takeout or delivery has been possible. So, of course, it will never be on the level where you want it to be, but this has been an opportunity under the circumstances where I think entrepreneurs have been able to mitigate the impact on their business. Another thing what also mentioned by you, Mireille, is look at the health industry. In some locations, the health industry has provided business or the hotel industry has provided accommodation to workers in the hospitality in the health industry. So these are the opportunities to look at. I think that is very important. And in order to materialize on these opportunities, it is of utmost important that you adjust to the norms which are valid at the moment. And I'm saying valid at the moment because I really don't want to call it the new normal. But you need to manage this in a way that you can provide a safe and clean and sanitized accommodation if it's in the hotel business. Marketing wise, we discovered that the local business is there. We discussed that local tourism is becoming important. And in some areas, even hotels have run full that others had to be turned down. So we need to make sure that we find all the good reasons to encourage this local business, whether it's just a staycation, a weekend away from home or a week away from home or as many as people want to do. People have been locked down for a long time. People are dying to get out. And if they can't travel across borders, they will travel within the country. So those kind of opportunities, I think we need to look at. We need to find all the opportunities available. And that's what I would recommend to colleagues. But I'm sure that most of my colleagues have done that already. So
it's always good to hear that, someone reaffirm that because it brings that inspiration. So diversification, marketing, thinking outside of the box, and really be creative in this time in order for that revenue to circulate and come back is what you are recommending to people. And I agree with you, because that's part of psychology of human beings. So traveling, or what we call in psychology is diversity. As a human being, we are wired for variety, hence the need for hobbies, hence the need to change and go on the weekend or staycation. So I agree with you that the industry will pick up again and will come back to normal, but until we see stability of whatever the norm will be then, we need to be agile as leaders. So you are saying that your colleagues need to think outside of the box and find solutions. So in the next 2 minutes that we have left on this program, I know time flies. Hey, Rex.
Absolutely. Just give me just a minute to recognize Emile. If you speak about Emile and Kigali, then I know Emile. So best regards.
All right. So he's definitely listening in, Emile. So you are in Lagos, Sheraton Hotel. How can people reach out to you should they wish to connect with you or hear more about this topic?
Very easy, through social media. I think you've already linked me in your announcements, be it Twitter or LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a social media platform I maintain as part of my business activities. Rex.Nijhof@Marriott.com for the ones who want to send me an email. And yes, further, I think for all kinds of inquiries about how we as a company deal with the situation, just visit Marriott.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for, being willing to come on today and also share experience with former colleagues in Rwanda, but also colleagues that I know will be following this conversation later on when it's on YouTube. So as always, as we complete, let me announce next week's guests. Next week's guest is Dr. Martin Oduotieno. He is a leadership coach, but also a very seasoned businessman. The topic for next week will be about learning from leaders whose decisions leave lasting legacies. So I'm inviting you to tune in next Sunday at the same time to hear from Dr. Martin on how, during his time as a group CEO of a Kenyan bank, he has utilized his leadership to make quick decisions that have impacted the sub-region in East Africa, and more importantly in Rwanda, by opening up a financial institution. So that will be a case study really to help you viewers to also make good leadership decisions that will live longer than you. So until we meet again next Sunday, I'm wishing you all of the best. Have a wonderful week. Subscribe to the channel and connect with us at Cora or myself should you wish to know more about this topic or connect with Rex. And if you wish to have more of a coaching conversations, connect with us and we'll make sure that you're in safe hands. Until then, goodbye, everybody. Have a wonderful week, and goodbye, Rex.
Thank you so much, Mireille. It was a pleasure being with you, and thanks to the audience for being with us.
Bye-bye. I'll see you in Lagos soon.
I hope we travel soon. Thank you, Mireille.
Bye-bye.